Hi folks, welcome back to the channel and thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. A short one today. Time for some nostalgia that's not Matchbox, even though it's Matchbox March. How about, perhaps I should have saved it and called it Airfix April. I did allude to these very briefly. A relative of mine actually has some of these original shelf hanging type packaging with the instructions. That's what they actually are, but they used to be in the 70s, start of the 70s. Airfix used to have these kits in a bag, and they used to be on a shelf hanger with a hole punched, and they used to all be, you know, on a row like that. Now this really does date them as probably pre-72, thereabouts, and before that, certainly not afterwards. I thought we'd have a look at these. Now, I've had one of these kits, the Hurricane, although I never had it in this shelf hanging form. I've seen them though. I had a Spitfire. There were still lots of those lying around in stock everywhere. I definitely had a Spitfire Mark 9, I think it was, that was packaged in this way. But let's have a look, let's have a closer look. I thought you might find this quite interesting. Let's have a nosy. This will bring back memories for a few of you, I'm sure of it. Yeah, back to the days of short trousers and summer holidays and all that kind of thing. So what we've got here, we've got the 25-pounder gun from World War II, very much the style of sort of Normandy campaign onwards, and in the desert as well, in 1941 too. 00 scale, 00 scale 76 scale, is that right? I was mixed this up. This is when they were using a lot of references that were popular on trains. What you've got here, it's quite nicely done actually. I quite like the actual style of this. The layout's clear. You've got showing your colour call-outs here at the end. The limber, which is the little ammunition sort of trailer that they have behind. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So let's have a look at the main instructions. It's quite interesting the way that it's in this vertical format. But I like the fact there's lots of clear written instruction, not just images, not just diagrams. And that's what's so lacking today, isn't it? So we've got your 25-pounder field gun, and then we've got our you've got the gun assembly, and you've got the actual tractor unit itself. How do they describe it here? Fighting vehicle. Oh yes, there's 4 seats in it. You've got some nicely detailed parts here, exhausts and your transaxles, your axles I should say. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there. The poor chap who's the doing the driving has got no legs, so that's not a good start, is it, when you're going into battle? But anyway, his legs amputated, like Douglas Bader. But it gives you explanation. It says it's all written, so you know if you're not very good, you know, you prefer a clear explanatory style of instruction. This is the one for you. Cement the driver in the beret onto the offside front seat after first painting the driver if required. It's all there, isn't it? Cement the back of the body in place. The triangular projections engaging on either side of the rear bumper. Locate and cement the mudguards 21 and 22 in place. Semicircular cutouts in the front of the body, etc, etc. I like it. I like the clarity, you know. So you read it back and forth, and then you can compare it with the diagrams. And it's very clear, isn't it? Very clear. Then you've got your gun assembly here with all your artillery men. The 76-pounder itself, 25-pounder I should say, sorry. 25-pounder gun. I mean, they're still used today, these guns. They use them in the Horse Guards Parade when they do salutes to the Queen and things like that on big events, you know. Ensure no cement comes into contact with the elevating barrel. It's very, very detailed. It's the absolute opposite of today's instructions, where there's no writing, no explanation of anything. This one is just full of detail. So, you know, if you were blind, I'm not suggesting if you're blind you'd be doing a lot of model making, but some people with limited sight, they could have this read to them or read it, get it read to them and recorded on a tape or something, and that's really clear instructions, you know. But it's nice, you know, and the diagrams are very sharp, it's all there. It's better than you would imagine, I think. It's better than what you'd expect for one of these very cheap kits that would be hanging on, you know, with that hole, for the say, a little bag of parts underneath it. Nice artwork as well, it's very nice, I really like that. So that's the first one. Then we've got a treat here. The Supermarine S6B Schneider Trophy winner. Look at this. So this is the forerunner of the Spitfire, of course. Made by Supermarines, Southampton. Excuse me. On the back, please open carefully. Instructions overleaf. In other words, don't rip it off the shelf. You're going to need it. But even here we get a nice description saying this aircraft, the last of the seaplanes designed by the late Mr. R.J. Mitchell, and was a direct forerunner of his world famous Spitfire. In 1931 the S6B won the Schneider seaplane outright for Great Britain, reaching an average speed of 340 miles per hour over a distance of 100 kilometres. Later in the same year the S6B raised the record to 407.5. Engine was a Rolls-Royce R engine of 2,300 horsepower. Later increased to 2,006 horsepower for the record attempt. Wow! What a beauty. Fantastic artwork, very nice. Colour scheme details here. How to apply your transfers, all explained. And then the actual instructions, again I think they're in this sort of vertical format. I can get in, here we go. There we are. Look at this. So you're building up your floats first of all. There's not many parts of this kit, I've got to say. Very, very few and far between the parts are. Part count, yeah, there's about 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 21, was close. Okay. And it says 22, it's got a part number 22, a little piece I missed, so there you go, 22 parts, that's your part count, that's incredible. But isn't it nice, you know, again it tells you how to locate them and where to put your glue. And there's a proper description of what you need to be doing. Warns you things to watch out for. Do not cement. It's basically telling you not to cement the spinner into the... so don't put any glue on the front part where the spinner is when you're doing the two fuselage sides. And your final assemblies, you're bringing the first two steps together really. It's a very basic model, I have to say, but I don't think the instructions are basic. Again, for its price, it's very, very nicely done. If you wish to paint the model, it should be done at this stage. What, at the end? That seems to be saying at the end. That's kind of strange way to put it. It's very strange the way they go about their English. Anyway, it's a very nice concept and it's a beautiful bit of artwork. I do like that, gotta say. Very, very nice. Then, what have we here? What have we here? We have got the original Mark IV Hurricane. And this was the forerunner, some of the later Hurricanes, it's the forerunner of the Hawker Tempest. And the Tempest, sorry, the Typhoon, the Tempest came after the Typhoon. The Typhoon was the plane that superseded this one. And as you can see, it's got the rockets, the underwing rockets, which were used for ground attack. And it was probably used for about, they used them in North Africa, didn't they? And then they sort of started to use them when we got attacking in Europe and they were up to Normandy, but they were phasing it out then. Typhoon came in to replace it, which had the big Napier Sabre engine, which was a really powerful, basically two engines strapped together, incredibly fast. So much more suited to this kind of work. And at that point the Hurricane started to get phased out. But anyway, a couple of things of interest here. Number one is the price. So I've not actually checked this, but if you look at the price here, it's got looks like it's Sandbach. That's in Cheshire. So it's obviously like maybe a newsagents or something that's been bought from. And it's 2/11D. 2 shillings, I think that is. And 11, which is, I think that's about 19p or thereabouts. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because a shilling was like a 5p in effect. Or thereabouts, depending on, you know, the exchange, which exchange year you're comparing it to, I suppose. That's the first thing of interest. Obviously it's from the original shop that it was purchased at. So that dates it was pre-decimalisation, so that's 72 or earlier. On the other side we've got proper description. There we go. Zoom you out a bit. Where it says, Hawker Hurricane was the first monoplane fighter to enter service with the RAF. Shouldered the lion's share of the Britain's defence during the Battle of Britain, and together with the Spitfire was responsible for the successful outcome of the conflict. So many versions were appeared in the Second World War, 14,000 being built in all. This particular version, 4RP, first appeared in 43 and was used both in Europe and in the Middle East. There you go. Primarily it was a ground attack aircraft, with rockets being particularly effective against armoured vehicles and strong points. The Hurricane had a wingspan of 40 feet, overall length of 32 feet 3 inches, and a maximum speed of about 340 miles per hour. It was armed with 8 rocket projectiles. Now I'm guessing that it doesn't mention any guns, does it? Interestingly, were the guns taken out at that point? I'm not too sure. I'm thinking that maybe that was the case. You can't really see any guns there. Or is this a gun port? Is that a gun camera? I'm not sure. I wonder if it had a single cannon in each wing. I'll have to do some more research on that. But anyway, very nice artwork. I myself had this kit, but not in this form. I didn't have it in the hanger form. I had it in the box form. But I do remember the artwork very distinctly. And I'm thinking I had it about 73, 74. So this is when they changed to conventional boxes. But this is when Airfix were not looking good in the presentation. The actual art element of it, as you can see, is fantastic, but the rest of it isn't great. You know, you have to bear in mind Matchbox came out just after they were doing these hangers, so you had a load of bits in a bag. It looked like an afterthought, really. I'm perhaps being a bit harsh, I know, but it didn't look as good as the Matchbox did. And this is why Matchbox really took off in terms of sales, especially on the smaller kits, because it was like, do you want this, you know, few bits of plastic in a bag, or do you want a Matchbox kit with all this colour on it and fancy window boxes and all that kind of thing? Anyway, we won't let that put us off too much. Let's have a closer look at what we've got in this Hurricane. Suggested colour schemes, you get colour call-outs here, which is quite nicely done. Very clear. Duck egg blue, which is the bars at the back, and then you've got light grey underneath, slate grey and dark green on the top. Tells you how to apply transfers, and then again we've got this vertical setup and instructions. And once again, not many parts. I think the rockets account for most of the parts, would you believe? If you ignore the rockets, how many parts are there? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. There's about 18 parts plus the rockets, so not a lot of parts. But that's what you wanted, you know. It's for a youngster to build, you know. It's a starter kit, this. But it's got a spinnable prop that can spin. As long as you don't, you know, it mentions here, do not get cement. Do not cement the propeller shaft and the cutout of the starboard fuselage. Make sure that you don't put any glue right at the front bit there. And you're putting in your top and your bottom wing. Tailplanes going on here. And it just echoes, harks back to an earlier time, a simpler time, doesn't it? All of it, really. And then at the bottom you've got all your rockets, which account for, as I say, most of the parts, because there's well, 16. If it's 8 rockets and another 8 rails, quite a lot of parts. Tail wheels, And your gear going in, of course, in your radiator and radio area. And that's it. So you've just got 3 steps. You've just got that fuselage bit. And you can see what I was talking about previously when I was raving about Matchbox, and I said in the competitor kits of the time they often did not even have a seat for the pilot, and there's the proof. You can see there isn't a seat. He just sits on a little bit of a sort of a nodule of plastic, almost like a little bench across. Not very comfortable. You see what I mean? You know, Matchbox came out and they always had a seat. So it was a big improvement in that respect. They were not by today's standards, but of its time it was offering more. And that's not to knock the Airfix, because actually I remember this was quite a nice kit. I quite liked it. It had a nice panel lines and it was all quite well done. A very nice kit indeed. Anyway, there you go. So that's the way that Airfix were presenting their entry-level kits. Now you can understand, those of you that weren't around, the younger ones amongst you that are sort of pre-40s, that you can understand how Matchbox came in with their, you know, we're going to talk about this in another video, fantastic colours and blah blah blah, and this razzmatazz, and they just made these sort of kits that were done like something. I mean, it looked very homemade. I thought these Airfix ones with the in the bag, suspended in the bag underneath. I thought it was quite poor. I never got very excited about them, and it's a shame because the artwork on them is on all those 3 is really nice, but the rest of the packaging is absolutely dire. It looks like a total afterthought. It's like a couple of grannies have done it, you know, in the local charity shop. And then Matchbox came in with this wham, like Star Wars arrives early, you know, very very upmarket, nicely printed, great artwork. Lots of colour, etc, etc. It's all relative. So now you understand. That's my point. I'm not trying to knock Airfix at all, but you understand why Matchbox, when they arrived in the market, was very successful for that first sort of 5-6 years or so. They brought something new and it had a lot of appeal. Anyway, on that subject, we've got another kit to review coming up soon. We've got the wonderful story of Matchbox kits, and we've got lots of Matchbox catalogues to go through, which is going to be quite interesting because they changed the style the way they did it every time, and it was I really enjoyed the Matchbox catalogues. I mean, the Airfix ones were not bad either at that time. Their catalogues are better than their packaging, I have to say. But we're going to have a lot of fun, I think, and lots of nostalgia looking at those. So stay tuned, come back soon, don't miss it, and don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, you must subscribe as soon as possible and ding that notification bell if you haven't done that, because that'll give you the early warning of the next video coming up. And please, in the meantime, all of you, take care, look after yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you very very soon with some more top nostalgia. In the meantime, look after yourselves, thanks a lot, and bye for now.